Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 14th of June, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index sinking lower this morning. Interestingly, we had this big spike yesterday on the Federal Reserve announcement, interest rates going up again in the US. But interestingly, more that there was an indication there'd be two more rate rises this year. The market spiked on that and then fell away, so we ended up lower than where we started. So a little bit of disappointment setting in there in the short term, but of course the long, medium term trends are still in place. Taking a look at the euro, we see that the euro actually strengthened on that news, of course, and the yen, we're seeing the dollar just sinking lower there as well. So short-term weakness in the dollar showing up after that Fed announcement. Looking at sterling, much the same picture, but looking weaker than most other currencies against the dollar. Sterling weaker against the euro with these downside targets in place, and against the Swiss franc weaker, and against the Aussie dollar stronger there, but we are still seeing that medium-term chart being bearish. Looking at Bitcoin, it's really fallen quite a lot over the last few weeks, really, and we're still bearish below the cloud. Short-term downtrend still in place, even though we're up some 2.5%. Of course, 2.5% is not a big day for Bitcoin. It moves much more than that on most days. And we're seeing here the US market was very slightly down on the S&P 500, the Nasdaq also just very slightly down. Markets little changed. Of course, the announcement came late in the day, but interestingly, we've seen very little change there. Dow was down 0.5%, and the Russell was down 1/3%. Futures this morning, we're seeing the S&P future down 0.1%, and the Nasdaq E-mini future down 1/3%. It does suggest the markets might open a little bit lower, seem quite rattled by events. And we're looking at the FTSE down, the UK mid caps also down, and if we take a look at the DAX, we're also lower there as well, and CAC Quarante down 0.5%. Asia suffered quite big falls. Tokyo down nearly 1%. The Hang Seng down 1% as well, turning bearish short term there, and the medium term chart still bearish. These markets really breaking down. We're seeing the Shanghai market also teetering along the bottom, activating a new downside target of 4.6% there. The Sensex holding up reasonably well, but down 2/3%, and the Aussie market not as badly down. Brent crude this morning sitting at 76.40, so still quite strong there. WTI, we're seeing that we're still in an uptrend there. US nat gas sitting at $2.95, awaiting storage numbers today. Taking a quick look at gold. Gold is back above the $1,300 level, up quite sharply this morning, so looking stronger there on the short-term chart. And if we look at silver, also up quite strongly. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.95%. The market really taking that interest rate move in its stride. Taking a look at Apple, we see that Apple was down just under 1%. Amazon also was up 1/3%, so looking stronger against the backdrop of most stocks falling. Google was down nearly 0.5%, and also Facebook just sitting in these low 190s. It'll be interesting to see if we can break the $200 mark on Facebook, but still looking bullish in the short term. And Microsoft just pulling back below that 101, but still holding the $100 mark. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.